In this video, we are going to go through a tool known as JavaScript Visualizer that can help us visualize any piece of code that we write in the same form of execution context. One thing to notice, it only supports ES5. What does it mean is you cannot use the latest features like let, const, arrow function, template literal and stuff like that. So when we write let a is equal to 21, here you can see it will throw a warning message saying let is available in ES6 and it doesn't support. So you will have to use a previous version like var and function declaration here. It has few buttons like step, run, restart and serialize. You can also change the speed to make it slower and faster. So let's see how the code execution works. So you click on run. And as soon as you click on run, the first thing it does is to create a global execution context. And here the phase says creation. So we learned about there are two phases, declaration and execution. Instead of using the word declaration, they use the word creation. So it's the same thing. They will be using creation and execution. So right now we are in creation phase. And you can see there are two special variables like window and this. So don't worry about this. This is just a special variable gets created in every global execution context. We'll learn about these things in future. So in our creation phase, or you can think about declaration phase, we have three variables defined: username, say hello, and sum. And the value of username is initialized with undefined because it is defined using var keyword. Same is the case with sum. Here say hello knows that it is a function, and we have already talked about it. That is the difference between variable declaration and a function declaration in declaration phase. So now if we run again, it will keep running and you can see what will happen. It moved to the next phase, that is execution phase. And the first thing it does in execution phase is to change the value of username from undefined to aria. Now it will move on to this phase, that is say hello. And we know that what happens when you execute a function. So let's see what happens here. As soon as you execute a function, the first thing that happens is a function execution context gets created inside the global execution context. So you can understand the orange one is global execution context and the blue one is a function execution context. And this function execution context is also going through different phases. The first phase is creation. And every function has a special variable inside it known as arguments. If you want to check that, you can open console here and I can show it to you by writing a function named add. And what I can do is I can just log saying console.log and a variable named arguments. Even if we haven't defined this variable and you call this function with any value 12, 12, you can see arguments is a special variable that is present inside every function declaration and that you can find it here. So that is the same thing, you can see it here. Inside every function declaration, you can find a variable named arguments and a special variable this. About this thing we'll learn about it in future, but right now with which phase we are in? We are in creation phase of say hello execution context. If you run again, what will happen? It is executing and phase change to execution, and later on it will return the value hello username. And as soon as that happens, the function execution context got deleted. So later on you'll see the value of sum will change from undefined to a function, and you can see it became a function. So now we will execute the function sum by creating a function execution context. Here it says that it is anonymous execution context is because we do not have any name given to this function, and that's why it's an anonymous function. And you can see arguments has values as 10 and 20 because we are passing two values as arguments, and that is what arguments means. So here the phase has changed to execution, but before that it was creation phase. If you go a bit back, so here you'll see the value of a and b is 10 and 20. It will add the value. It will return that value, and as soon as the function returns something, the function execution context will be deleted, and at last this is what will remain. So what is remained is a global execution context with the value of username to be Arya, say hello is a function, and sum is a function. So this is how it works. You can experiment by changing this code here, and to understand how the execution context works, how function execution context works. So they also have some of the examples. If you come down, you'll see simple closure, complex closure, scope chain, bubble sort, and a lot of other stuff. Say for example, I want to understand scope chain. So when you click on it, it will fill in with a test code snippet. And if you run this, it will do the same thing that it was doing earlier, is by creating global execution context, and you can go through this code to understand the execution of any code properly. So in this way, we learned about using a tool known as JavaScript Visualizer to clear our visualization of understanding how a function gets executed,